In the winter of 1944, the forests of East Prussia were becoming a frozen graveyard. Snow covered the ground beneath towering trees. The cold was brutal, the daylight short, and every movement could reveal a soldier's position. Somewhere beyond the white landscape, German troops were desperately trying to slow the advancing Soviet army. Among the Soviet soldiers moving through this deadly world was a young woman named Roza Shanina. She was 20 years old. She carried a Mosin-Nagant sniper rifle, wore a white camouflage smock over her uniform, and had learned to wait. Waiting was one of the most important skills a sniper could possess. A sniper could spend hours lying motionless in the snow, watching through a scope while the enemy searched for him. The slightest movement could expose a position. A careless breath, the glint of a rifle, or disturbed snow could mean death. Roza understood this, but she also possessed something that made her unusual even among experienced soldiers. She was extraordinarily aggressive. When other soldiers saw a dangerous position and waited for orders, Roza often wanted to move closer. She wanted to see the enemy. She wanted to fight. And she wanted to survive. Roza Georgievna Shanina was born on April 3, 1924 in the village of Yedma in the Arkhangelsk region of the Soviet Union. Her childhood was far removed from the battlefields where she would eventually become famous. Her family lived a difficult rural life. Her father, Georgi, had worked in different occupations, including as a lumberman, while her mother, Anna, worked as a milkmaid. Roza grew up in a large family. Life in the Soviet countryside during the 1920s and 1930s was difficult. Poverty, hard labor, and political upheaval shaped the lives of millions of Soviet citizens. Yet Roza was known for having an independent personality. She was not the sort of person who easily accepted being told what she could or could not do. That characteristic would become important later. When she was 16, Roza made a decision that surprised her family. She wanted to leave home. She wanted to study. She traveled to Arkhangelsk, where she enrolled in a teacher's training program. For a young woman from a rural family, the decision was ambitious. She wanted an education and eventually hoped to become a teacher. For a time, her life appeared to be heading in an ordinary direction. Then the Second World War changed everything. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, invading the Soviet Union. The attack transformed the country. Millions of Soviet men were mobilized. Cities were bombed. Villages were destroyed. Families were separated. The Soviet Union suffered enormous casualties during the first years of the war. Roza was still a teenager when the conflict began. She watched people around her leave for the front. Then the war became personal. One of her brothers was killed. Another brother also died during the fighting. The war was no longer something happening somewhere far away. It had entered her family. Roza wanted to join the fight. But there was a problem. She was a woman. The Soviet military did eventually recruit hundreds of thousands of women into different military roles, but opportunities varied. Women served as nurses, communications personnel, pilots, mechanics, machine gunners, and snipers. Roza initially worked in a civilian capacity, but she was not satisfied. She wanted to become a soldier. In 1943, Roza entered a sniper training program. The training was demanding. A sniper had to learn much more than simply how to fire a rifle. She had to understand camouflage. She had to judge distance. She had to control her breathing. She had to remain patient. She had to understand how weather affected a bullet. Most importantly, she had to learn how to remain calm when someone was actively trying to kill her. Roza proved to be an excellent student. She graduated with strong results. Her skills were soon put to use. In April 1944, she joined the 184th Rifle Division, serving in the 1138th Rifle Regiment. She was eventually sent to the front. For Roza, the training was over. The real test had begun. The battlefield was nothing like training. There were explosions. Artillery shells tore apart the earth. Machine guns swept across open ground. Men disappeared in seconds. And everywhere there were snipers. Roza had to learn that killing an enemy soldier from a distance was only part of the job. The enemy could shoot back. A sniper's position was often targeted by artillery or another sniper. One mistake could end everything. Roza quickly developed a reputation for courage. She was not afraid to move into dangerous areas. She also developed a distinctive ability to remain calm under pressure. Her rifle became an extension of herself. Her battlefield record began to grow. The Soviet military credited her with numerous enemy soldiers killed or incapacitated. Eventually, her official record would reach 59 confirmed kills. But numbers alone cannot explain her story. Behind every number was a battlefield encounter. And behind every encounter was a young woman who knew that the person she was watching could be trying to kill her. Roza's wartime diary provides an unusual window into her mind. She was not simply a fearless killing machine. She was a 20-year-old woman experiencing one of the most brutal conflicts in human history. Her diary contained thoughts about the war, her comrades, her emotions, and her hopes for the future. She wrote about loneliness. She worried about people she cared about. She experienced fear. And she dreamed about life after the war. That last part is important, because stories about wartime heroes sometimes make them seem almost superhuman. Roza was not. She was afraid of dying. She wanted to live. She wanted the war to end. She wanted to return home. She wanted to experience the ordinary life that the war had taken away from millions of young people. The contradiction was remarkable. On the battlefield, she could be ruthless. In her private writing, she could be vulnerable. By the beginning of 1945, the Soviet army was advancing toward Germany. The Eastern Front was collapsing. German forces were retreating, but the fighting remained extremely violent. The Soviet offensive pushed into East Prussia. The landscape was difficult. Dense forests, villages, roads, fields, and frozen terrain created countless opportunities for ambushes and sniper warfare. Roza was now an experienced combat sniper. She had survived months of fighting, but survival had made her more aware of how fragile life really was. Every operation could be the last. Every day could end differently from the one before it. Yet she continued. Roza's courage sometimes brought her into danger. She was known for wanting to move forward with infantry units rather than remain safely behind the main line. For a sniper, this could provide better opportunities. It could also be fatal. The closer a sniper moved toward enemy positions, the greater the danger became. There was no guarantee that a successful shot would be followed by survival. The enemy could locate the muzzle flash. They could watch the area. They could bring artillery down on the suspected position. Or another sniper could be waiting. Roza knew these dangers. Still, she continued to volunteer for difficult missions. Her comrades respected her. Some admired her. Others worried about her. She was young, but she behaved like someone who had already accepted the responsibilities of war. By January 1945, the Soviet advance had reached East Prussia. The German army was fighting desperately to prevent the region from falling. The weather was bitterly cold. The battlefield was covered in snow. Soviet troops pushed forward through villages and forests while German forces attempted to slow them down. Roza was there. She was 20 years old. The girl who had once wanted to become a teacher had become a veteran sniper. But she had little time left. On January 27, 1945, fighting intensified near the East Prussian settlement of Prussia, associated with the later Soviet advance through the region. Roza's unit was involved in combat. She moved with the troops. At some point, she was caught in extremely dangerous fighting. The exact circumstances surrounding her final moments have been described differently in various accounts. What is certain is that she was mortally wounded. She did not immediately die. A fellow soldier, Captain Igor Krulov, found her seriously wounded. Her injuries were catastrophic, yet she remained conscious. According to accounts from the time, she was transported from the battlefield while the fighting continued around them. Roza died on January 28, 1945. She was 20 years old. The war that had consumed nearly 4 years of her life was still raging. Germany had not yet surrendered. Berlin had not yet fallen. Victory was only months away, but Roza would never see it. After her death, Roza's diary became one of the most powerful parts of her legacy. It revealed a side of her that battlefield statistics could never show. She had doubts. She had hopes. She thought about love. She thought about death. She worried about the future. She dreamed about returning to a normal life. This makes her story particularly haunting. Roza had spent years fighting for survival, yet she died only a few months before the end of the war in Europe. Had she survived, she might have returned home in 1945. She might have become a teacher. She might have married. She might have lived to old age. Instead, her life ended in a frozen landscape thousands of miles from the future she had imagined. The number associated with Roza Shanina is 59 confirmed enemy soldiers killed. That figure helped make her famous. But there is a danger in reducing her entire life to a number. 59 kills do not tell us what she felt before pulling the trigger. They do not tell us what she thought while lying alone in the snow. They do not tell us how she felt when a friend was killed. And they certainly do not tell us what she imagined her life would become after the war. The number is part of her military history. Her diary is part of her human history. Both are necessary to understand her. Roza Shanina became one of the best-known Soviet female snipers of the Second World War. She was not alone. The Soviet Union employed many women in combat roles, and female snipers became particularly famous. Women such as Lyudmila Pavlichenko had already demonstrated that women could become highly effective snipers. Roza belonged to the next generation. Her story represented something broader than individual bravery. It showed how total war had transformed society. The Eastern Front demanded enormous sacrifices. Men and women alike were pushed into roles they might never have imagined before 1941. Roza had wanted to teach children. Instead, she learned to hunt enemy soldiers through a rifle scope. The transformation was tragic, but it was also a testament to the extraordinary circumstances created by the war. Roza's story remains powerful because of the contradiction at its center. She was a young woman who became a deadly soldier. She could face an enemy position with remarkable courage, yet privately she remained deeply human. She wanted to live. That may be the most important detail. The image of the fearless sniper can make war appear almost romantic. The reality was very different. Roza's courage did not mean she wanted to die. Quite the opposite. Her writings suggest a young woman who wanted to survive the conflict and experience the life waiting on the other side. But history gave her no such opportunity. She died at 20. The war continued without her. Imagine the East Prussian countryside in January 1945. Snow covers the ground. The trees are bare. Smoke hangs above the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, artillery is firing. Soldiers are moving through the forest. And somewhere among them lies the memory of a young woman named Roza Shanina. She had once walked into a training school carrying the hopes of becoming a teacher. She had once been a daughter and sister. She had dreamed of an ordinary future. Then history placed a rifle in her hands. She became a sniper. She became a soldier. She became a symbol. But before all of that, she was simply Roza, 20 years old, young enough to have most of her life ahead of her, old enough to have already seen more death than most people could imagine. Her official record ended at 59 confirmed kills. Her life ended on January 28, 1945. But her story survived. It survived through the diary she left behind. It survived through the memories of the soldiers who fought beside her. And it survived because, even after decades, her story reminds us of something that statistics often conceal. The soldiers of the Second World War were not simply numbers in a history book. They were young people with families, fears, dreams, and futures that the war could erase in an instant. Roza Shanina's greatest tragedy was not simply that she died in battle. It was that she died so close to the end. Only a few months later, the guns of the European war would finally fall silent. Germany would surrender. Millions would celebrate. Families would reunite. Soldiers would return home. But Roza would remain where the war had left her, beneath the frozen skies of East Prussia. She would never know that the victory she had fought for was almost within reach. And perhaps that is why her diary matters so much. Because behind the famous sniper was a young woman who never stopped imagining a future in which she was alive. A future in which there was no rifle in her hands, no battlefield, no snow-covered hiding place, only peace. That future never came for Roza Shanina, but her hope for it did. And that is what makes her story unforgettable.